Hey, 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 chica! Welcome to the Lovelda Show Women of Power podcast, the show where women share their personal power tools, the techniques, strategies, and ways of being which have enabled their business and life success. I'm your host, Lovelda Vincenzi, a female speaker mentor, speaker, and event host on a mission to unleash authentic, powerful female voices onto the world. In today's episode, we'll be uncovering the power tools of Beth Griffith. Beth is a brand strategist for overachieving, intelligent women who know that a personal brand is the key to everything that they want. She studied marketing in college and found her knack for branding as a birth doula and broke into the branding world by helping other birth workers in her area stand out online. In this episode, Beth reveals all, sharing the core principles for birthing a long-lasting, fulfilling brand and what the darkest moments she's experienced have taught her about a woman's true power. Remember, all the links shared in the show can be found in the show notes. And the only way to ensure that you get your regular fix of the show is to click that subscribe button right now to make sure that you get updated as soon as a new show is added. Now, that is quite enough from me for now. So let's get on with the show. Hey, welcome back to the Lovelda Show Women of Power podcast. Yeah, we're back and we are rocking it out today. Today, we're going to probably end up talking a lot about brand strategy, amongst other things. So, of course, we're still talking about the power behind the woman. But today's guest has been on the most intriguing journey I've ever heard of to become a brand strategist, helping businesses all over the globe to develop brands that are really quite compelling brands. So, of course, I can't get her on here and not talk branding because that would be like daft. So we're definitely going to be diving into brand and brand strategy. But first, before I bring this lady on, we're going to have to dive honestly immediately into her journey into starting her business. And the reason I want to do that is because often when we're looking at businesses, sometimes we think it's going to be quite linear, like how somebody got into something. Hers, I mean, just imagine the squiggly line. You know, you have that line, which is like, here's the direct journey to entrepreneurship. Hers was like squiggly, jump all over the place. You're wondering how the heck the things came together to lead to where they've led to. But when we get to the end of her story, you'll know precisely why. So please welcome today's guest, Beth Griffith.
Woo, I'm so excited to be here. Thank you for that. It's so fun. You are so right. Holy crap. The squiggly line is...
The squiggly line.
That's it. Oh, it's squiggly. It's so squiggly.
And that's what I love. So, I mean, let me put it to you this way. So basically, you've gone from doula to brand strategist with a lot of other stuff in between. So let's just take us back to your journey to doing what it is that you do today.
Yeah, so I decided that I wanted to be a doula and childbirth educator when I was 24, 25. I was pregnant with my daughter, and I ended up having a doula at my birth, and I ended up taking a childbirth education class, and so I ended up having her birth, and it ended up being unmedicated, which I thought was like so impossible for me, and so it gave me this experience where all of a sudden I was like, I want to help women see what they're made of. And that was like the underlying theme of everything that I wanted to do moving forward. Was I wanted women to have experiences where they would walk away from it knowing that they could do anything. And so birth had done that for me. Birth, it was not an easy birth with my daughter, but I did it. And so I wanted to start to help other women to do that. And so I became a childbirth educator and doula. And so anyways, it was just kind of a crazy experience where it was almost like I was being called to do it, despite the fact that like I had all of these reasons that I felt like I couldn't do it. And so long story short, I became a childbirth educator and doula. And straight out of the gate, I was getting clients, I was getting booked out, all of these things. And I thought that I was failing because I wasn't because other people showed up online, like they were just like booked out the second that somebody peed on the stick and saw that they were pregnant, they were getting that phone call. And so I was like, I'm such a failure, had all of these horrible emotions about myself as a business owner. And then which we can dive back into this, but I attended some births that were really, really difficult for me. And I decided, like, I just can't keep attending births for my own sanity and for my health. And so I left the industry, and all sorts of my doula and childbirth educator friends ended up coming to me, and they were like, "Okay, can you teach me how you marketed? Like how were you marketing? Because like I haven't had a client in a year." And I was like, "What? Like, you guys look like you are doing great." And like I was doing like way better than you guys. And so I decided, like, I have to start teaching people how to do this, because that's crazy. It's crazy.
Wait a minute. Like, what really gets me there is because we watch it, right? Like the compare to despair. We're watching these other people and they are popping up all over the place. Like boom, boom, boom. Everywhere you look, they're up. And then they're like posting their testimonials. And you just think, oh, they've got it going on and I don't. And it's so funny that you say, as soon as you stepped out of it, these people you were looking at thinking, my gosh, look at how amazing their businesses are. We're not getting booked for like years. So were they taking like last year's testimonials or something? Like, what was going down?
So the ladies who would talk about how they got booked out, I have no doubt that they really were getting booked out. But there were other people who they were showing up online and they had doula in their name on Facebook, and they were doing all sorts of stuff, and they were posting stuff about birth constantly, but somehow they weren't getting clients out of it. And so they actually, a lot of those women who talked their big game would get in the head of these newer doulas, and it would keep them from showing up the way that they wanted to.
And I guess that is like, to me, it sits like that's something that is beyond just in like a doula. Like actually it's so fundamental with women. I mean, I know I have a lot of clients where there's this, almost inferiority complex that's constantly playing out. Look at them, and you're looking at these big names in the market, but you don't have anywhere near that level of resource. It's just they are pulling out these polished videos and whatever else, and you're sat there going, I got my phone and I don't even know how to really record on this, and where did that microphone come from? And so it almost creates like this barrier to doing anything.
Yes. Well, and I honestly, I've ended up experiencing that in like the branding world, where there would be people who would come and they would slam me for branding because they were branding experts. And so I kept like looking at them and I kept thinking, well, if they're a branding expert, I'm not, because we don't do the same thing. Like, and I just felt like, you don't have to belittle people to build a successful brand. And if that's what brand is, I want nothing to do with it.
Here, Chica. So you said something really important there, which is you're doing it really differently. So what are you doing that's so different? Because often what's really ironic is, I'm going to say this, like, here's what's really ironic, especially when it comes to business. We're told about looking for a USP, like a unique selling point, and then we don't want to be different. Like, I'm kind of like, how the frick do we land on this? Like, I need a USP, but that would mean that I would have to be different because nobody else is doing it like that. But maybe your USP is the thing you do different. Like, duh.
Yes.
So what is your difference? Like, how are you doing branding different to most people?
So if you look at a lot of like the brand strategists out there or branding experts, they're going to tell you to be polarizing. They're going to tell you to drive people away with your content. They're going to tell you to just do things to stand out. I'm actually more concerned about the experience that your brand provides. And then I trust that experience to do the work for you. And so there's actually 4 different quadrants of people that I'm concerned with the experience that they have connected to your brand, because if you don't take care of all 4 quadrants, your business will fall apart. So the first one is yourself. Are you like actually creating an experience with your business for yourself that makes you stick with the business long term. I've walked away from my business so many times because I wasn't taking care of me with the experience that I provided.
That is so important, because we can be so much about what's happening outside of us to create this thing that someday will give us back. But to start with this, like, actually, is this fulfilling for me? Do I have the energy to give to it? Is always another really great question to explore. That's really powerful. So that's the first one, yourself. And then what were the other three?
The second is your inner circle. So that's your friends and your family. These are the people who like keep us in check of like, hey, you're getting into workaholic mode and you aren't actually enjoying your life anymore. They're the people that help us make sure that like, oh, you know what, like, I'm going to take the time to stop and go get a pedicure with my friend. They're so important. And a lot of times we put ourselves last, but we also put them, you know, right before us, right? And so anyway, have to make sure that the people in your inner circle are being taken care of and that they're having a good experience around your business. Otherwise, they're going to make your life hell to the point that you quit. Honestly.
And it's also when people experience that, like, you know, you're with a partner and they resent the business because the business is just always taking you away. It's like this thing. It's like the third person in your freaking relationship. So I think it's really important to understand that you're, and I don't think many of us think of it, but those who are closest to us also have an experience of our business in terms of how that business is impacting their life.
Yes.
Girl, you're so going deep already. Okay, that's just 2 of 4. Okay,
right.
Okay.
Okay, so then the third is your consumers. So that's your customers and your staff. Because most of the times you're like, well, why would those be the same? They're either consuming your time or they're consuming your money. So do you have a brand that's actually set up so that they'll stick around and bring more resources back into your business? So when you think about there have been times when I've had staff and then I brought on like pain in the ass clients and then that actually drove staff away.
That is true. I've worked for those companies where the client is such a pain in a ball ache that you just think, you know what, if you're gonna put me through this torture, and it is torture, I'm out.
Exactly. And so like, are you just taking people's money and not thinking about the fact that it's creating such a horrific experience for the people connected to your business that it's actually damaging your brand? Ooh. So that's a big thing to think about. And then fourth is your network. And so this is anybody that they could either refer somebody to become a consumer or they could become a consumer themselves. And so that's like literally anybody else. And so when I'm concerned about how somebody's brand is showing up online, I want to stop and I want to look at it from all 4 points of view. Because if we don't look at it from all 4 points of view, there's going to be somebody that makes that it causes such friction in your business that it makes you want to walk away and it cannot scale to the point that you want it to.
Such a different way of looking at brand, because when we think brand, right, it's like logos and colors and fonts and all of that stuff, right? The you know, what's the tone of voice and what's the colors and how do I piece all of that stuff together? And you just went and flipped a trip. I don't know what the trip is, but you went and flicked a switch and literally have just like taken it, shook it up and gone, here's a different perspective.
Yeah, exactly. And so like the thing is that if we think about those 4 perspectives, that tells me so much more about what fonts to use. That tells me so much more about what colors to use. Okay, so I need to have a brand that is really warm and welcoming. Great. If we know that you need to be warm and welcoming for the experience that you're going to provide for all 4 quadrants of people, then we have the right direction to go with your brand visual identity.
Ooh, such a different way of getting to the core of things. And I think what I'm really loving with the different perspective, I'm going to kind of bounce back to something we said earlier on, which is this idea of your uniqueness. And I don't think, having not been a doula, like if you hadn't have done that, would you have been able to have gotten the same perspective on branding? Because it's such an intimate experience to have with somebody, to get that close to, for them to have a particular experience of birth. Like, you can't just think of the individual. You do have to start to think about the environment and everybody else around them to kind of support them. And so I wanted to touch on that, because often we can do these things that feel so counterintuitive. It's like, what the frick am I doing this for? Like, I spoke to a woman a few weeks ago, and she told me that she was doing a talk. Oh, I'll come back to it. But it was just, we just kind of, on the outside, sometimes things can look so disconnected. And it's so beautiful to see that your unique experiences is what allows you to do what you do, where you'd kind of go, what the heck has a doula got to do with branding? Yeah,
absolutely. So this kind of brings me back to the births that I had attended that led to me leaving being a doula. So one of the last births that I attended before I stepped away, I have attended births since then, but more like, shh, don't tell anybody.
She doesn't do this anymore.
I don't do this. Yes, exactly. One of the last births, it went for 72 hours, and she could not get relief. Like, everybody else tried to massage her. They couldn't do it in a way that actually gave her pain relief. And so I had to be awake. I took maybe like 3-4 hour naps once or twice in 3 days. And and so that was really, really intense. And I had another birth where there was a stillborn baby. And that was just like so traumatic for my psyche. And the other last birth that I had these were the last 3 births that I attended.
Were they like one in a row, like one after the other?
They were. And so this was the one that like really made me it gave me a lot of pause to, is this something that I want to spend my life doing? I'm so grateful that there are women who want to spend their lives doing this. I do not have the emotional fortitude to do this long term. But I was attending this birth. She was laboring at home before we went to the hospital, and I went to go make her some oatmeal, and all of a sudden I heard her yell from the bathroom, and I went to go check on her, and she said, like, it hurts so bad, it hurts so bad. So we called 911 to transfer her to the hospital. So we did transfer to the hospital. She was planning to have a hospital birth, but she was just so early on that it didn't make sense to go to the hospital yet. They wouldn't admit her yet. So we transferred to the hospital, and like my gut just kept saying, like, something's really wrong. And the nurses kept checking her, and they kept saying, oh, you're fine. Everything's fine. Just keep laboring. And things just didn't look right to me. And anyway, they finally came to her and they said, we need to break your water to get things moving along. And when they broke her water, it was just blood sprayed everywhere.
Wow.
And so they had to take her back for an immediate emergency C-section. And her husband wasn't there, so I had to call him and tell him, I need you to get here. Ooh. And so he's freaking out. I'm like, just drive safe and get here. Like, oh, this is so intense. And so then when she was in the recovery room, I went to go see her, and she was just crying, and she was saying, like, what's wrong with me? Why am I so broken? And like, I never want, that's the opposite of why I got into childbirth education and doula work. I wanted women to walk away empowered. I wanted women to walk away knowing that they can do anything. I did not want women to walk away thinking, I'm broken.
Oh, girl, you got me. Oh,
yeah.
No, I couldn't do it. I couldn't. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I could not do it.
Yeah. And so I ended up like really evaluating my life after that. And I was thinking, okay, so I want women to walk away feeling empowered. What's something that we have more control over? And what is something that I'm gifted at? And what is something that we can have like a really cognitive conversation about, if you walk away from this, it's not because you're a failure. It's because it's what you chose. And business is the answer. And so I probably was one of those people who like did fake it till you make it, not knowing that that's what I was doing. I generally don't believe in fake it till you make it, but it's just what happened. You know, I was like a lot of people who are new in the marketing industry, where I felt like, oh, I know this stuff. I'm good.
I got it.
And then I just put myself out there, and then I might not have, right? But it's been years since then. And I reached the point where one day I woke up and I was like, you know what? I really am an expert at this. I really do know this stuff. And it was after I'd actually taken a break from business because I felt like I was such a failure, just like that mom did, right? Yeah. And I felt like I was such a failure because like I didn't have clients that were like overnight 6-figure earners, right? But I had taken months off, and then I talked to my clients that I had been working with earlier that year, you know, almost a year before, and their businesses actually were in really great places because of the foundation we had created. And I realized that brand isn't a short game. It's not like quick sales strategies. It's the long game. And so, you know, now when I have clients who are feeling impatient, I think of it like birth. I think of it like labor. Like it's going to be hella slow when we get going, when it starts, but then it eventually picks up and it reaches a point where it's like, okay, too much. And then you have to course correct again. So honestly, building a brand is exactly the same process as birth, but it's a process of letting go and getting out of your own way. That's what it really is.
Girl, you have got away with words. You like pulled me in there. I had a moment. I was like, this feels like a Hallmark moment or something. I should have brought some tissues. I mean,
I didn't know you.
I didn't know we were going to go there.
I used to say.
I'm going to have to start this one off with like a, you know, warning or something. Grab your tissue, sit down. It's a good show. Okay. It's a good show, but it might take you places. It's going to open up little chakras in your heart you didn't even know were closed.
You know, when I speak on a stage, actually, Lovelda, when I speak on a stage, I tape my business card to a pack of tissues and I say, tissues are my calling card because I'm going to make you cry. So I should have warned you. Sorry about that.
I mean, really. But you do take me very nicely into the next question, because I think your experiences set you up so beautifully to have a really unique perspective on what makes a woman powerful. So what do you think is that golden nugget? I mean, having experienced so many women in some of those really heart-wrenching moments in their lives and in their businesses, I suspect as well, what do you see as that core of power?
Honestly, it's just when a woman can love herself for whoever she actually is, like at her core, who she really is. You know, having attended births, one of the births I attended, it was so fascinating because she was a first-time mom, and usually a first-time mom will labor for 24 plus hours. And anyway, I showed up at her house like 7 hours after she started laboring. And I ended up actually catching her baby 8 minutes after I walked through the door. But hers was one of the most incredible experiences, not just because I got to, you know, catch a baby and whatnot, but because like how she owned exactly who she was. She was like, you know what, I had said to her, I was like, can I get you to like get lower to the ground or get on your hands and knees, like anything? And she's like, nope, I'm standing. Like she just told me like, this is how I'm birthing, get out of my way kind of a thing. And so
this is me. I got me. Now you're just a support system, just so you know.
Exactly. And that's how a woman should birth, honestly. But it was like my first time ever catching a baby. And I'm like, oh, shoot, how am I going to do this? Right. But I've seen women do that in their brands as well. I've seen women who they say, you know what, I am intuitive and woo-woo, and I do have this, spiritual realm vibe going to me, and I'm going to own that. And then I've seen them like change and save lives, but because of that. For me, it's been that suicide has been a theme that has shown up throughout my life. My mom, when she got pregnant with me, she was actually suicidal. And she ended up deciding not to commit suicide, thank goodness, because she was pregnant.
I was like, do I need the tissues again?
No, you might, but for different reasons. Okay. But she ended up deciding, I'm not going to, because I have this baby to take care of and a baby to grow. And so her pregnancy with me was the thing that saved her. And so since then, I've actually struggled with suicidal ideation my whole life. And then I had a relative die by suicide 2.5 years ago. And anyway, those experiences made me realize that, like, in my darkest moments, the thing that has saved me has been a random thing. It's been the smell of the soap that I was using. It's been something that a coach said to me. It's been learning to crochet from a crochet coach. It's been these little things that I've actually bought. And so I ended up realizing that there's billions of people on this planet. There's billions of people who are struggling with suicidal thoughts at different points during their life. It's actually my job to help people to sell more stuff with their brands, because if they can sell more stuff with their brands, they can save more lives. And so my whole belief is that selling saves lives. And I could not have gotten there if I didn't go to the dark places with myself and actually learn to love myself for exactly who I really am. And girl. That's what I love to help other people do too.
Oh, girl, you'd be like, this is a different type of interview. You'd be like, hit me right in my soul. It's like, and then another one comes in like, I'm like, okay. It's good. It's really good stuff. And it's great stuff. But, I don't think somebody's punch me in my soul so much, good punching, but, there's a soul punching interview right here. Bleeding Nora, like, where am I at? I'm losing my mind here. There's so much going on. I'm like, woohoo! So what I would like to understand from you is, like, the core questions I ask all of my guests. I basically would like to know, especially after you've shared, and thank you for being so vulnerably open with us today. There's a lot of stuff that you shared that I know many of those listening will have experienced something similar, and perhaps they've never told anybody. So I want to acknowledge you and thank you so much for taking a moment to be that open with us here. And with all of those experiences, if you're to take all of them and, like, boil it down to 3 core things and say, these are the things that have been the most core to my success in business and life, the tools, the techniques, the strategies, the ways of being, like, if you could only pick 3, what would they be? Dun, dun, dun.
So just because of what I was mentioning, as far as, like, struggling with depression, struggling with, suicidal thoughts throughout my life, one of the most important tools that I've learned in my entire life is to just get ready. Take the time. I'm actually known in my audience for my lipstick. And
I was looking at it today thinking, my goodness, that's a great color. I should have told you. It's really, if you're wondering what the color is and you're listening, like, audio only, you need to jump over to the YouTube channel and then you can see Beth's lipstick. It's really hot.
Thank you.
I might have to link it in here. Like, those lipstick sales are about to go through the roof.
Yes, it's actually Lip Sense. So, one of my I bought it from a friend. But getting ready, whenever I start to find myself in a funk, I just commit to myself, I'm going to get ready for the next 3 days. And if I can just get ready for the next 3 days, it's crazy what shifts for me. I can handle so much more things in life. I just have a brighter outlook, and I believe in myself more. And when you have those things in place, life is just so much easier and so much better in general.
So when you say get ready, you mean, like, get out of bed, take off the pajamas, put on a full face of makeup,
I
do
say
your
this
hair.
as I'm wearing pajamas, but yes.
Look, okay, maybe just start with your face, ladies. You know,
Right.
maybe just put on some lipstick, brush your hair, brush your
Yes.
teeth, you know, put on a nice top. Like, do something where at least you could do a selfie and feel like you looked hot.
Exactly. So that like when you walk past that mirror, you don't feel like you were like a Victorian era influenza victim, like that meme that's going around, right?
Well, as I like to term it, you're not having a hobo moment where you walk past, you're like, damn, who
Yes.
is that?
Right.
What have I become?
Well, and then like flip it into like, damn, who is that? What have I become? Right? Like same words, just a different attitude.
Yeah, you want it to be like, damn.
Uh-huh. Exactly. When you look in the mirror and you feel that way, life is so much easier. And it's so much easier to show up in your brand. I can't tell you how many people I've worked with who can't do live streams because their makeup isn't done. And just go do your damn makeup.
That would be me. I have to leverage when I'm like, if I've recorded something, I'm like, what else am I recording now? Because I put this face on. So
Yes.
So we are going to be going for it. So it's like, I'm going to call it the 3-day get ready challenge. Like if you're struggling with your brand for 3 days in a row, you have to get up and look your hottest. Like even dig in your wardrobe and pick out that gown that you ain't never got nowhere to wear the dang gown. Just wear the gown around your house, take some selfies, set up a photo studio yourself. I don't know, do something with that moment. But I think I'm gonna coin it like the 3-day get ready challenge.
Yeah, and I call that feeling, I call it the little black dress effect, because you put on that little black dress and you feel yourself. You put on that little black dress and like you can take on the world. So put on clothes that make you have that little black dress effect. I don't care if it's jeans and, you know, a graphic tee, but whatever it is that you put on and you're like, yes, that is me.
And if you've got to prep, like if you've got to get on YouTube, check out some videos, style something up a little bit, you know, find a little twist in the corner of that top. I don't care, something, but get ready. So number 1 is like, get ready.
Get ready.
And then what would be your number 2?
Know yourself. Know who you are. Admit it. Stop pretending that like you're either some, you know, weaker version of yourself than you know that you are, or stop pretending that you are somebody that you're not. Because the longer that you know, like I've wasted years. Trying to be Katia Varbanova, right? But I'm never gonna be her. I'm never gonna be Todd Herman. I'm never gonna be any of these other people, but damn, I can do a good job of being me. And when I know that like I'm not the person that's meant to run an agency and a huge team, but I'm like the person that people seek me out all day freaking long just to talk to me. So how do I build my business to monetize on that?
I love it. It's like the one race you can freaking win. Like if you want to be #winning, like the one race you can win is being you, because ain't nobody else can do it as good as you. Period, full stop, and a story. It's like boom. Like that's like the one race that you know you can go to your deathbed winning, provided you're in it. Like, if you're busy being somebody else, you're not going to be able to win that race. But it's like when you can kind of go, got a gold medal in being me. And so for those people who are like confused, like, how the hell am I being anybody else? Like, how do you know when you're not on that path and you're not being truly you? Like, are there some like telltale signs where you could be like, girl, please, that ain't you?
Oh, yes. Okay, so first off, like ask the people around you. You know, I spent a year attempting to like step into being an ENTJ, and then Katia Varbanova, she came to me just last weekend and she was like, are you sure you're not like an ESFP or an ISFP or, you know, one of these other types? And so I like spent all weekend watching ESFP videos, and I sent it to like all my best friends, had my husband watch, and they're all like, yeah, that's you, because that's the effortless version of you. That is, you don't have to
effortless. Do you know what? I think that's normally I know when I'm working with clients, that's like my go-to. Like what is it that you're doing? Where does things just seem like it was never work? It's normally, I don't know if it's mainly a female thing, but like if it don't feel like work, we almost want to say, nah, it must be something else. That was too easy. That thing that was too easy, that shit, do more of that.
Yes. Well, and here's the thing is that like, I literally, without effort on my end, could talk to people all day, every day. Mm-hmm. And it would just not even be a thing. And there are so many people who like, that's not the case. I only get into like not wanting to talk to people if I've promised things that make me like feel like I'm failing them.
And then you don't want to do it.
Exactly. And that's when I've fallen into the trap of like not honoring who I am and by not even knowing that I'm not doing it right. So when I thought like, okay, I'm this like devil wears Prada kind of person, I felt like I was constantly failing people, and it just dragged me down. And when you're feeling dragged down, you can't show up for your brand.
Do you know what? It's so much easier as well. Like I did these for a period of time. I thought I'd do these like little Zoom catch-ups, like mainly because I was locked in my house. And so, no, it was COVID-19. That's why I was locked in my house. Like I wasn't imprisoned or anything like that. Like everybody was locked in their house. Just if you're listening to this later going, why was she locked in her house? It was COVID-19. Anyhow, so I decided I'd throw together some catch-ups because I just needed to talk to people. And I did the first one. I called it Coffee Catch-up. I do love my coffee, but I love my vino more. So I had to shift the next one to the evening because I was like, I feel so much more relaxed, like sitting, having a chat with people, because it was only supposed to be a casual networking, what's the best word, like masterminding session. But it's when you get in your head and you go, oh, I can't do that, that wouldn't be professional. Do you know what? That's me professionally. Like,
yes,
that's a Lovelda professional. It's a cup of coffee, it's an espresso martini if I really know you, because those things are strong as hell. Or any sort of martini, really. Espresso martini, lychee martinis, they'll get me too. Or it's a good glass of red.
Yes. Well, and one of the other things, though, is thinking about who would you be if you weren't weighed down by all the things that adulthood has told you that you have to be weighed down by, like that professional side that you're mentioning. One of the things that I decided to do this summer is to spend the summer living like I am 17 again. And like just getting back to who was I when I was 17 before I was told that who I was wrong. And so like I performed all the time. I was singing. I like was like the biggest I am still a big musical nerd, but
love musicals.
If I was being, oh really? Oh man, I need to come visit you. But I honestly, if 17-year-old me had a personal brand, there would be like musicals and I would be singing all the time, and it would be so much more light and fun and easy than 32-year-old me makes it.
And fulfilling.
And fulfilling for sure.
It's a big word we miss out, but normally it's because we're not doing shit that feels good.
Yes.
So it's emptying versus fulfilling. Okay, cool. So we've got two. Bleeding Lord, there's loads in here, isn't there? What would be your third? So get ready. What was the second one? Be yourself or know yourself. Get ready, know yourself. And then what would be the third one?
Be coachable, but not just by people and coaches, but by life. You know, take the time.
Pray tell more.
Take the time to stop and evaluate like what's going on, because, you know, I had somebody tell me I was ENTJ, and that was me being coachable, right? But life was telling me otherwise. Life was like, you're not happy here. You're not happy here. And if this was who you really were, then, well, that would happen. And honestly, some of the best things that have come out of my brand and out of my business that have made the most impact for my clients are the lessons that life taught me, not necessarily the lessons that coaches taught me.
Do you know what? I love that, because I know of people who sometimes will have a coaching experience that delivers not what they were looking for, you know, and then you want to say, you know, the coaching didn't work. Well, you know, the coaching experience is a life experience, and there's something you had to get from that shit. Like, maybe you should not have hired that coach in the first place. Maybe that's a pattern. Maybe you went into it thinking that you weren't the best version of you and you needed to be saved. Like, there was something in that experience, the life experience, that sometimes comes out of that coaching engagement, which therefore means that it's valuable. It's just like one example of where you can look at, you know, actually what's going on broader beyond the one dimensional, like, blinkered version of what I want to see right now.
Yeah. And honestly, just a little tip for not having to give refunds is, if you have that attitude and somebody's not satisfied with the coaching experience that you provided, but you know that you provided what they needed and they just didn't leverage it, it's your job to realize that, like, that was their coaching. That was life coaching them, that they made the wrong decision. And, you know, does it suck? Sure. We've all put money in our businesses places that we didn't want to put it.
Places that felt like a good idea, but we should never have done it.
They were a good idea theoretically, like in your head, but they weren't necessarily in alignment in your heart. Right? And understanding that everybody's going to be coached by life. And if somebody's dissatisfied with, you know, the experience that they had with me, I think about, like, I hired a coach and I felt totally like she conned me. I felt like, are you kidding me? I spent, you know, $6,000 and that's all I got. Guess what? 3 years later, I'm like, damn, that was a good life lesson. That was a great investment. That was so worth $6,000. And understanding that, like, somebody might hate me for a few years, but they're learning a lesson, and that's okay. Oh. And that's what their business needed. That's what their business needed.
I'm a little bit speechless. And I'm not normally a little bit speechless. Like, you're good. You're good. So there's girl. Yeah, girl. So there's going to be people listening who are like, ooh, there are layers to this woman, like layers. So we have coaching and we have brand, but we have spirituality, and then we have mental well-being. I mean, there's just layers. And there'll be people saying, I need just a little sprinkling of Beth in my life. Like, how do people stay in touch with you?
Well, to stay in touch with me, you can just generally follow me on Facebook. Send me a friend request. That's a great place to do it. But you can also go to my website and you can actually take a quiz called the Brand Experience Identity. And the Brand Experience Identity asks you literally 2 questions. And then it helps you understand what your brand, the experience that your brand should provide is, by helping you identify with, like, an archetype.
Mine is complete, ladies. You're going to have to jump over and do that. By the way, all of the links are in the notes. So wherever you're watching, they're in the show notes. Remember, if you haven't yet done so, like what's taking you so long, hit that subscribe button, hit the bell, and leave us a review. Share. People need to hear this stuff. Beth, you have been incredible. That was a deliberate pause. I didn't need to think about it. I just wanted it to drop in. Incredible. What would you like to leave us with today? Like what would you like us to really take away from today's session?
You know, the message that's coming in that I feel like needs to come through is, if you will take care of your own experience and the experience that you're having in your brand and in your business, then it's going to naturally start to take care of everybody else. You just have to take care of your own experience.
Focus on taking care of your own experience first. That's it. Your experience. Look after your experience and the rest will look after itself. You have been listening to the Lovelda Show, Women of Power podcast. Until next time, ciao.